massive troop buildup along its border with Ukraine. Joining me now from Michigan, Congressman Mike Rogers, who had his own surprise this week when he announced he's stepping down as chair of the powerful House Intelligence Committee at the end of the year. Congressman, welcome back to Fox News Sunday.
Chris, it's great to be back.
Let's start with Putin's phone call with President Obama. While the White House portrays this as Putin discussing pursuing a diplomatic resolution, the Kremlin says that he called to talk about extremists threatening ethnic Russians in Ukraine. What is your best analysis, given particularly the buildup of Russian troops along the border with Ukraine? What's your analysis? Is Putin looking for a way out or simply setting the stage for another invasion?
He is absolutely not looking for a way out. So you have two environments going on at the same time, Chris. You have the Ukraine issue and you have the Georgia issue. So they're moving some of their most advanced equipment into South Ossetia. No reason to do that. The Georgian army really poses no threat. That's certainly concerning. And then you see all of the Russian movement along the border, and you see Russian covert influence operations, meaning they have their intelligence officials and their special forces inside Ukraine trying to foment this notion that the Russians should come in. There is no way that I would take that as any other sign other than he is looking for a way to find his land bridge from Crimea to Transnistria along the northern Baltic Sea area, which is right along the Moldova and Ukraine border.
So when you say you see no other explanation, are you saying you think he's going to move into eastern Ukraine?
I wouldn't see that he would go into eastern Ukraine. If I looked at it today, and nobody really knows, they don't know what his intentions are, other than you can gauge by history and what his actions are today. He really, if he was going to protect Crimea from a military perspective, there's a water source that's several hundred kilometers north of Crimea, and he needs a land bridge to connect Crimea and the Transnistria area that's already said it wanted to be part of the Russian Federation. That's right along the top of the Baltic Sea area. So if I were looking at this and going to lay down some stakes of where he was going, that's exactly what I would think he would do. He would do that first, the southern part, and then he would continue his covert influence campaign in the east of Ukraine. And unfortunately, there's just not a lot that can happen. I mean, the United States said we were going to give MREs. I think they're finally getting here this weekend, but it's taken us weeks just to get food to the folks who are saying they want to stand up to Russian aggression in the east of Ukraine.
Just to talk about the situation in eastern Ukraine, your best intelligence, how many Russian troops are there arrayed along that eastern border, and how threatening is their posture right now?
Yeah, we see tens of thousands, and it's not just the number of troops, it's the kind of troops and the kind of configuration. What units are along that border and what could they accomplish? They have everything they need already, I believe, on that eastern border to go into Ukraine if they decide they want to do it. So they've got their special forces teams, they've got heavy armor elements, they've got all of the light infantry and heavy armored infantry that they would need to move in to Ukraine. And I think they're going to continue this pressure. They're going to continue the covert influence campaign in eastern Ukraine to, I think, to kind of foment this at least future decision to go into the eastern part. I would look at the south. I think that there is real possibilities that he wants to gain that ground in the south. And then I would ask, why is he moving the equipment that he is into South Ossetia up in Georgia, which makes really no sense other than they're contemplating maybe using those armor columns to drive through Georgia down to Armenia to create a land bridge from Iran. So if you look at all the possibilities that they lay out on the table, it is really concerning. And I doubt Putin called because he thought that he wasn't in the best spot in that particular conversation.
Let me move to another troubling issue, and that is the continuing mystery of Malaysia Airlines Flight 370. The Australians have now moved the search area. We put a map up, as you can see, about 700 miles northeast, closer to the coast of Western Australia. Based on new radar analysis, Congressman, they're finding more debris in the area, although they haven't, at least so far, been able to link it directly to the flight. How confident are you that they are now looking in the right area?
Well, I can't say the right area because debris moves and the weight of the impact and the heaviest part of that aircraft probably went down at least on some angle. So the debris field can move, and that's what's so difficult, I think, and presents such a huge challenge. The probability is very, very high that that aircraft is at the bottom of the Indian Ocean somewhere, and it is going to take some time. Remember, this is planes are big, but they're not big in relation to the Indian Ocean, and so this becomes a mathematical and a little bit of luck equation for them as they're continuing their patterns for search.
The FBI, for some period of time now, more than a week, has been examining the computer hard drives of the two pilots who were in the cockpit that night, as well as the hard drive for the flight simulator of the lead pilot. And there are reports that they have done a thorough examination and have come up empty, have come up with a dead end. Question, is that true?
Well, I have seen nothing yet that has come out of the investigation that would lead me to conclude that there was anything other than a normal flight, that something happened, something went wrong. Now again, they're going to compare the forensics on the computer with a full background on not only just the pilots, but every crew member and every passenger on that aircraft. Will take a tremendous amount of time to do that. So there is, we're just going to have to be patient, I think, as this thing unfolds. And the only way to really find out what happened is to try to find the airframe itself, or as much as that's intact, so that they can do their forensic investigation on that. That will be the best place to make the final determination of what happened, barring if there was some conspiracy, and it's pretty hard in the world to keep conspiracies quiet, that there was some conspiracy that they could uncover in the portion of the human portion of the investigation, the passengers and the crew.
Congressman, let's turn to the Benghazi terror attack, because the former acting director of the CIA, Michael Morell, is going to be testifying before your House Intelligence Committee this week in open hearing. Question, what do you want to find out from him?
Well, we've had two hearings with Michael Morell, both in a classified setting, and I thought it was appropriate. So since his last time testifying in front of the committee in a classified session, we've had some additional information. I think it's important for him to have the opportunity to answer questions on the public record and allow the public to see. The House Intelligence Committee has done more investigative work, more public hearings, more hearings, more committee time hearings, more subcommittee hearings than all of the other committees.
But is there a specific, sir, is there a specific question or a specific issue that you want to resolve with him?
Well, I think we do. There's the fact of the memo and the talking points is important. Many believe that there was political influence on the changing of those talking points in that particular, in the days that happened right after the event. We need to make sure if that in fact is not true. Additionally, we know that facts on the ground said, hey, that the State Department folks were requesting help and didn't get it. We need to try to make sure Americans and the committee fully understands that link and why that didn't happen. Was it anything that the CIA did leading up to the event, or was this completely a State Department failure when these folks were asking for additional security, and somebody in that chain of command for security clearly ignored the threats, ignored the intelligence, and unfortunately at least contributed to the death of 4 Americans.
Finally, I want to talk to you about Mike Rogers, because as we said, you had quite a surprise for Washington. I have to say, this town was shocked when you announced on Friday that you're planning to step down at the end of the year, not seek re-election, and to pursue a career on radio. I have a couple of questions. First of all, you seemed in effect to indicate in your announcement that you think, and you're the chair of a very powerful committee, but that you can contribute as much as a radio talk show host. Do you really believe that, sir?
Well, here's the thing. So when I took the committee, it was not functioning very well. So I worked with my ranking member, Democrat from Maryland, and we agreed we were going to take all the politics out of it. And so during the course of the last 3.5 years, and will be 4 years at the end as chairman, 10 years on the committee, I think we've made really important strides to try to fix a lot of that, take the partisanship out of national security and fix some very hard technical problems, everything from cyber to space and everything in between, human collections. We've done that. I've helped do that. I've helped drive that agenda. You know, it was an interesting opportunity when you see the level of debate today, Chris, on national security issues and foreign policy. It worries me for the future of this country like nothing I've ever seen. So when someone walked in and said, hey, we're going to give you the opportunity to have a discussion in people's cars, living rooms, and kitchen every single day from California to Iowa to New Hampshire to South Carolina, we think that you can change the needle on this debate. And I thought long and hard about it and thought, you know, I think they're right. We have to, this is a great program. It's a sophisticated program that you have, but we need to broaden that audience to have this discussion so that we can put America on solid footing as we move forward in a very troubling world.
I have to do the kind of thing that you're going to do when you're on this side of the microphone, because I noticed when you were talking about the conversation, you talked about New Hampshire and Iowa just as random states. And you know, Ronald Reagan, back in 1980, I don't have to tell you, used his platform as a radio commentator to run for president. So is that a consideration for you, or you were prepared at this point to rule out any interest in 2016?
Wow, Ronald Reagan used his platform on radio to run for president of the United States? I had no idea, Chris.
So, so what are you saying? That, I mean, you're thinking of this?
No, listen, I'm going to take it where it goes. This is a very unique opportunity that I will be able to talk about issues in ways that you don't hear on a national radio platform today about the importance of national security, foreign policy, and all of the issues facing America. And, you know, to have that intimate conversation with listeners was very appealing to me all across the United States. My goal here is to be as engaging as I can and to get listeners' opinion. And if I can move the needle on the debate, there's a lot of celebrity politicians that are using issues candidly in Washington, D.C. today that are detrimental to the national security of the United States, and the politics in Washington has gotten as small as I've ever seen it.
Well, I'm just going to ask you, I have to ask you, because we're over time. When you say celebrity politicians, you want to name one?
Oh, I think your listeners are smart and savvy enough to make their own list.
I think you're, first of all, you've always been a great congressman and a great guest. I suspect you're going to be very successful as a talk show host. Congressman Rogers, thank you. It's always good to talk with you, sir. And I'm sure we'll get the chance to do it again before you start your new career.
I hope so. Thanks, Chris.
What do you think of the chances for a deal with Putin?